Alright, today we are on the Silver River, and there's around 30 springs that feed this river. I'm hoping we can go to at least 20 today, but we'll see. They're all sprinkled out along the bottom of the river, and there's one really big spring, a few medium-sized springs, and a bunch of smaller springs. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to find all 30 of them, but hopefully we can get to at least 20. We'll see. We're coming up on the end of February, and this might be the last cold front we get in Florida, so I figured I would come out today because if you watch my videos, you know that the colder it is, the higher chance that we'll have of seeing manatees. There's also wild monkeys out here, which is really cool. It's hit or miss if you see them. Hopefully we see some today. If not, I'll throw some pictures up. And later on, I'll talk about how the monkeys got here to Florida and the Silver River. All right, this canal that we just went down leads us to the head spring of the Silver River. So this is our head spring over here. It's called Mammoth Spring, and we're gonna paddle over there. So after we see this spring, we're gonna go down the river and we're gonna find the rest, and we'll talk about all of the wildlife that we see. Hopefully we see some good stuff today, but it is really pretty out here, and it's crystal clear right now, the water. We're in about 15 or 20 feet of water right now, and it drops down to around 30 feet right over here. And we're basically right over the head spring. This is called Mammoth Spring, and it pumps out, it's either 400 million gallons of water or 550 million gallons of water a day. I think it's 550 million gallons of water a day. But you can see the cave down here. And this is in about 30 feet of water. And this cave wraps all the way around. But this is the main spring that feeds the Silver River. And this is a protected river, so there's no swimming. So we're gonna stay on our board. But let me put the camera underwater and I'll show you what it looks like down below. They also do these glass bottom boats here at the park, which is cool if you're not into paddleboarding or kayaking. You can come out and take a little tour, and the entire bottom of the boat is glass, so you can see straight down into the spring. Oh, there's some turtles right here. 2 cooters and 1 soft-shell turtle. They just dove down. So there's a lot of history around Silver Springs, but we're not going to talk about too much of it today. We're going to focus more on the springs and the wildlife. Yeah, we're going to start heading down the river and check out the rest of these springs. It's really cool. All right, we're at our second spring, and this is one of the medium-sized ones. It's really busy on the water, and there's manatees right in front of us. So I'm gonna do my best to avoid everyone, and we'll just kind of stay to ourselves right now. But this is our second spring. You can actually see the spring boil coming up right here. All of this disturbance in the water, this is from this one spring right here. Oh. So this is what it looks like when the manatees are trying to mate. We have some males chasing a female. They're right underneath me right now. You can see the female here, and then you can see the males right there chasing her. The manatees were, you know, doing their thing, and it's very silty now. But there's some right here. They're actually right here in front of me. So this is our next spring. Hey, Hannah. And like I said just a few minutes ago, this spring is normally crystal clear, but with the combination of how windy it is and the manatees causing a ruckus in here, it's a little silted out, but you can still see how clear it is. And you can see the boil coming up right here. There was a lot of people out here on kayaks in this one little area, so I just kind of tried to avoid it for the time being. They were excited, they're probably tourists, and they wanted to see the manatees, which we see all the time. So I kind of let them have their space and enjoy that moment. But since everyone's kind of gone, I'm gonna bring the camera back underwater and look at this ring right here. Funny is all of these people were right in here and they had no idea that there's an alligator right over here. I can barely see him. Let me just get my phone out and zoom in on this alligator. These people had no idea. There's probably 20 people out here, and it's a pretty good size alligator too. Alright, time to move on to our next springs. There's supposed to be 2 springs right over here. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see them. Again, due to the manatees kind of stirring up the water. Oh, there's a mom and a baby right here. The mating ones. That's the female that they were chasing. So we call this island right here Bird Island, and you can see all of the anhingas and cormorants. That cormorant just came up with a stick. It's almost nesting season, so they're building their nests. And if you've heard about penguins, how they'll get the prettiest pebble or the prettiest stone on the beach and bring it back to a female to mate with, anhingas and cormorants kind of do the same thing, but instead of a pebble, they'll get a stick and they'll bring it back and hopefully get a mate. And in just a few weeks, this entire island right here will be just completely covered with birds. They're already starting to build their nests. And what's really cool is alligators have learned over time that anhingas and cormorants give sticks to their mates. So the alligators will actually grab a stick or a twig and balance it on its snout and lay just beneath the surface and wait on a bird to come and get the stick. And they'll snatch them right out of the water. It's kind of sad, but it's also nature and it's the circle of life. Our next spring is just right here on the side of Bird Island, and again it's murky due to the manatees, but there's a spring down here and it's usually crystal clear right here with white sand on the bottom, and you can see all the fish swimming. Okay, this spring is actually in the middle of the river compared to being along the bank, and it's kind of hard because I'm drifting with the current. Chaos going on today. There's a field trip over here. There's a lot of people on the water. There's a glass bottom boat right here, and they do have the right of way on the river, so if you're ever out here, you do have to give them their space. There's another spring right here somewhere. It's either right here or right over here. Let me check this one out. Yep, it's right here. There's 2 more springs right here in the bend of this river, and of course it's murky, but what's really cool is there's a dugout canoe down there at the bottom, and you can see it on a clear day, but it's an actual canoe that Native Americans used hundreds of years ago, and it's made out of cypress trees, which are right here along the bank. And cypress trees are basically really water resistant, and that's what the natives used to make their canoes out of. And I want to say it's 600 years old, I could be wrong. There's some manatees right here. We call these manatee footprints. You can see the disturbance in the water, and it's like their footprint going along. And the other spring is just right here. These are all 4th magnitude springs that we've seen today, except for the first spring. The first spring is definitely a 1st magnitude spring, which means it pumps out more than 64 million gallons of water a day. Oh yeah, you can see the white sand right here. This is where the flow is coming from for this particular spring. I think I picked the windiest day out of the year to come out here. This river is just amazingly clear, especially on a sunny day like this. There's no clouds in the sky. But we're coming up on our next spring. I think this one is called Christmas Tree Spring. It's like its own little oasis out here. And the water, as you can see, is just crystal clear. You can see why they call it Christmas Tree Spring. It's got this huge tree down on the bottom. This is a fallen down cypress tree. And from what I've heard, it's petrified, which basically means it's fossilized. I'm not sure how true that is, so don't quote me on that, but that is the word. This is one of my favorite springs along this river. I think just because it's kind of tucked away off to the side, and it's really calm in here, and the water is just really turquoise and blue. I don't know if you can see, but there's a school of fish right here. These are all blue tilapia. They're invasive to Florida, and I want to say they come from Africa, but they're not supposed to be here. Unfortunately, that's a big problem in the Florida Springs. They were once aquarium pets, and then someone decided they didn't want them anymore, and they let them go into our freshwater lakes and rivers and springs, and over years they just spread all throughout. They do affect our ecosystem in a negative way. They outcompete our native fish for food, habitat. I think the blue tilapia eat the exact same food that our native largemouth bass eat, so that's clearly a problem. Just on the other side of Christmas Tree Spring, there's another alcove right here, and there's another spring down below. But if you see white sand and crystal clear water, that's basically an indication that there's a spring down below. And there's supposed to be 2 more springs back here. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to them, because it looks like there's a lot of vegetation that's kind of covering them up. Oh, there's an alligator. He's right here on the surface. Let me get my phone out. It's funny because that dark spot in the water, that's the other spring. So there's a spring back there, and there's a pretty big alligator right there. So he's kind of blocking my entrance. I don't necessarily want to disturb him, but there's a boil right there. Okay, I'm gonna try to go around him. He might just dip down underwater. I wasn't sure if the spring was going to be back here, but you can see all of this duckweed, and then it's just cleared out right here. It's a telltale sign that water is coming from underground and it's pushing everything out. There's a lot of stumps that I can't see. So we've been to around 12 or 13 springs so far on this trip, and we're about halfway done. So I figured now at the halfway mark I would kind of shout out my business. In 2023 I got the idea to start my own business. I called it Visibility Forever, and I was going to take people out on paddle boards to the springs because I love paddleboarding. but I eventually switched over to clear kayaks. It's really cool with the kayaks. You can see straight to the bottom. It's a little bit easier for people that don't know how to paddleboard, but in 2024, we actually launched our first tour in August of 2024. We do tours here along the Silver River, and we see all of these springs. We see all of the wildlife. We see manatees during manatee season. We go to all of these different springs. We see alligators, we see birds, we might see monkeys if we're lucky. It's really cool. So the tour will last around an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours, and I provide everything for you. I provide the kayaks, I provide your gear, I take photos for you. I actually have a tour tomorrow, so if I get some cool footage, I'll put it in right now and show you what we saw. Yeah, I won't talk about it too much further, but if you'd like to take a tour with me, I'll leave my website in the description, or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Visibility Forever, that's the name of my company. And like I said, you'll be in clear kayaks. We'll come out here, we'll see the springs, we'll see the wildlife, we'll see all kinds of cool stuff along the river. All right, we have some more springs to get to. Let's go. So if you're ever on the water and you see kayakers just all congregating in one place, that means something is definitely over there. And I did hear someone yell out monkey. This is actually pretty deep out here in the river. This is maybe 20 or 25 feet deep. So here's another spring right here. All of these springs in this portion of the river are pretty similar to each other. They come off and they have their own little alcove. We're back in the alcove where the monkeys were. And this is our next spring right below us. Again, you can see the boil. People are yelling monkeys again. Oh, there is a monkey. I see it. Okay, let's go see if we can get some footage of it. Okay, I'm not going to get any underwater shots of this spring since, you know, there's a monkey 50 yards ahead of me. I just saw two of them walking on the branches. Yep. Okay. All right, well, that was fun. And we've seen manatees, monkeys, and alligators today. The holy trinity of species to see on the water. There was probably 15 or 20 monkeys we saw all throughout the woods right here. Here comes a little blue flying right next to me. Oh, two of them. GoPro died, so I'm going to be filming on my phone from here on out. There's another spring right in this little alcove. Okay, here it is. It's just right down there on the bottom. This one has a really low flow. If it had a stronger flow, you would see a boil on the top of the surface, kind of how we've seen on the other springs. You can actually see the spring right there. There's a little cave right there, and the water is coming right out from under there. Okay, we're at our next two springs. There's one right below me. This one has a pretty strong flow. You can see the limestone down there. And there's another one right over here. It's really hard to paddle and film at the exact same time. It was easier whenever I had a GoPro on my head. But here's our next spring right down here. So one of the original Jungle Cruise skippers on this river back in the 1930s, he actually bought a few monkeys, rhesus macaques. They're from Southeast Asia. And he released them on this island that we call Monkey Island in hopes to attract more visitors to the park. Well, he didn't know that they could swim. And the very next morning he came back out here. They had escaped this island and swam over to the mainland. And that's basically why the monkeys are here today. They've spread all throughout Central Florida, and they're in the hundreds, maybe the thousands now. There's a bunch of springs all surrounding this island. There's one right below us, and there's one right over here. This one's pretty big, and you can see the difference in those tiny little boils that we see. And this one's pumping out a lot of water. You see the boil coming right up here on the surface. This is Monkey Island, and there's an alligator over there in the grass we're gonna go check out. All of this dead grass gets pushed into these islands. They get pushed into the banks. This is the perfect place to see alligators. They love hiding in this stuff. Okay, we're coming to the opposite side of Monkey Island. There's another spring right over here. It's right down here in the middle. Lots of alligators hang out in this area. Oh, there's a stream right there. I wonder if there's another spring back there. There could be another spring back there. There's no way we're going back there, but there might be an undocumented spring. Okay, we are almost at the end of our spring journey. Is that a spring? No, that is a fish bed. Looks like a spring. There's a few just right in this little alcove. Okay, you can definitely see the limestone down here. There's 3 springs. There's one here, there's one over here, and there's one over here. We are coming up on our final spring, and it looks like we're going to be greeted. The spring is right here. It looks like we're going to be greeted by some manatees. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more adventures like this. Also, let me know down below if you like this camera angle. This was on my Insta360 camera, and I've been experimenting with different shots from my paddleboard. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye. Anna's filming me up there. She's on the bridge. I just embarrassed her in front of everyone. Stop taking pictures of me. I don't know you.